This is the Classic Auto Mall Show. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298. Featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stewart Howden.
And here we are, show number, is it 249? Yeah.
Yes.
Cool, yeah. Here we are in the middle of June. The end of June almost.
Yeah, we're the 250th show on the 250th birthday of America.
Well, there you go.
Or darn close.
We sure planned that well, didn't we? Wow. How cool are we? Before we get to our wonderful guest, JR, how many cars in inventory right this moment? You get to guess by yourself because Steve's not here. Where he is, we don't know.
No, but in his stead, my cold or allergy is here.
Yeah.
So I could do some really things, and I'm going to guess 789.
Bingo, right on the number.
Wow.
That's never happened.
Wow.
So, and I'm disappointed that we only have 789 cars in inventory. We have to pay the bills around here, guys, so get some cars in here. Joining us via Zoom this morning, or afternoon, well, no, it's morning for you, I imagine, too, is Mr. Jim Hall II. Joining us from Texas, I imagine, or where are you today?
I live in Ventura, California. So
How cool is that?
It's 8 a.m. So up in the hills, it's foggy and 70 degrees. So
I love that part of the world. It still seems unmolested out there compared to other places that we've gone to over the years, and a beautiful part of the world. And you're close to, Monterey, and, you got racing all around you down there, right?
Right. Buttonwillow, Willow, Thermal, Laguna, Sonoma. Yeah, all reasonable drive.
Sure. And you just got back from a wonderful racing trip to Sicily and Spain and went to the F1 race at Barcelona. That must have been a treat.
It was really special. As you know, I've known Zach Brown since he was 16, and I leased property from Gene Haas with my kart track for 14 years.
Wow.
And he and I have known each other for about 30 years. So I was guest of both, and really feel just honored and treated. And they made me and my friends feel really special.
Sure. It's a great picture.
Really, really sweet.
Yeah, a great picture of you kneeling next to the McLaren Formula One car in the pit lane. That doesn't get to happen very often. That's not something you can just run down and do, right?
We had these really special hard cards that they're very protective of, and they escort you in and out and hand you one and then take it away from you, and they use them all year long. But because Zach wasn't there, he was at Le Mans. His assistant just did lots of special stuff for us. We got to come in during the race into the garage and watch some pit stops, and had access to talk to the crew and the trainers. And, it's a huge staff now, so It's so different. When I was the president general manager of the Pennzoil Indy Car Team with John Andretti in 91.
Right.
We had a total staff of 19 for everything. And I think they have about 1,500 their staff. So.
Isn't that crazy? And of course, we were talking about, going over the pit wall like it is in Formula One, almost unlimited. There's 3 people per tire, plus the 2 guys in the front, plus the 2 guys in the back, plus the guy, their pit wall crew is almost as big as your entire crew for the whole team.
Our entire staff. Yeah, 20-something over the wall, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And doing pit stops in 1.8 seconds. I asked him about that, and he said, the 1.8 is cool. He said, but what we really strive for is the 2.5 average. That's where we want to be. We want that consistency that has to be for winning races. You win the races in the pits a lot of times.
It is. That consistency is so important because the strategy, I think, is based on a 2.5 pit stop. If you have a 4-second one, it might do that.
Yeah.
I've been, obviously, I love McLaren and Dad and Bruce McLaren. When Dad did the season in '63, they were neighbors in England, and I've loved McLaren over the years.
Sure.
One of the pictures I sent you is I got a lot of time with Jo Ramirez.
Yeah.
That was, right under Ron Dennis. And he said he was actually part of the team when Dad ran Formula One in '63.
Wow. Wow.
He was a very young mechanic in those eras. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty darn cool. So we had a fabulous time. And the sightseeing in Barcelona is amazing. We went to Sagrada Familia. We went to all of the famous Gaudi houses and went to Montserrat and just had a really great time.
Right. And probably gained a few pounds with all that good eating over there, right?
My wife is training for the John Muir Trail. She's in July going to walk 200 miles in about 2.5 weeks carrying. She's all of 111 pounds, carrying 30-something pounds, backpack, all her belongings on her back. And so she was training. So we walked 15 to 20,000 steps every day.
Wow. That's a lot because when we were in Monterey this last year, we walked like 11,000 or 12,000 steps in the day. And I was exhausted. It's the most I'd ever walked. I said, there's no way I could do any more. And then I hear people like you guys who walk 15 to 20. So God bless you. So good to see Lewis and Ferrari back on top. It was funny, boy. All the drivers were really complimentary and congratulatory to Lewis on being back on the top of the podium, and you don't see that in all sports. So it's nice to see the competition, patting you on the back.
It was really special. I've been a Lewis fan for about 15 years, and as the race ended, McLaren got very fortunate that both, Charles and Kimi dropped out. And so they ended up 3rd and 5th. And right as the race was going checker, Zach's assistant, she said, let's go. And we just followed her running right out into the pit lane, right beside Ferrari, right in the first and second row of the podium. And watched Lewis jump onto the Ferrari guys. And we're right under the podium. As you guys probably know, that's the first all-British podium since 1968 with George and Norris and all that. Yeah. And so we got to experience that, champagne, everything, and then walk back into the garage with the crew. And the chairman of the board says, hey, Jim, would you like some champagne? And hands me a cup of champagne. So we're celebrating with the crew. And it just was really special. I just so appreciate Zach just saying, let me do something special for you and show you what Formula One's like. Very different than Indy cars, very different than history. And even though he wasn't there, he was there in spirit. One of the pictures I sent you, his assistant said, why don't you put on Zach's headset?
I saw that. It said the ZB.
I took a picture and it says ZB on the side of it.
I saw that.
And she sent it off to him, just like, Jim's watching over things for you since you're gone. I didn't get to go out on the pit wall during the race, but it was just very fun. Very fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of pinch me moments that you had during that. I imagine that it didn't get much better than that. And of course, Formula One, top of the heap and no different. You mentioned your dad. For those of you who don't know, Jim Hall, his father, founder of Chaparral Cars and a driver and a builder and an engineer and an all around just great guy. Just so important in the history of motorsports. What your dad has done for all disciplines. It's carried over all the way from the aerodynamics that he did to everything. It's just amazing his impact and influence.
Yes, it's just wonderful that I got to grow up around that with Rattlesnake Raceway and the shop. As soon as they were done building the car for the next race, they could go shake it down. And I know you were talking with Bobby Rahal about Mark Donohue, and of course, happy that I knew him as a kid. Sad the way we lost him, but just a great engineer driver like Dad and Hap Sharp in that era when I was a kid would be out testing the cars. Later on, Franz Weiss, the engine builder, would be out testing. And for me, growing up, I worked for the Formula 5000 team, and we won, we won 3 seasons in a row with Brian Redman. And Brian Redman, for me, is how I taught my school. He was a finisher, right? And he only ran as hard as he needed to. And he was racing against good guys like Mario and James Hunt and Al and, all the guys. But one time during the time I was working for him, he was first or second 38 out of 41 races.
Wow. That's an amazing,
spectacular.
Yeah. And it's
Carl
funny.
Haas and their crew and our crew. And it was, we had 5 of us to do everything.
Right.
Fabricator, machinist, mechanic, engine builder, gopher me, engineer dad, and 5 of us to keep 2 cars ready.
That's just in this day and
incredible.
age. Yeah, it wouldn't even happen in that form or fashion. But it's incredible. Now you listen on the radio when you're hearing the Formula One guys, where a guy's got a huge lead. Don't be setting fastest laps when you got a 40-second lead. There's no reason for you to hit the but how do you teach a race car driver to slow down, right?
Yeah, it was very exciting for me. Lewis went on a different strategy of, the three pit stops, and he got fortunate that a virtual safety car came out, and then he just checked out. He checked out almost a second a lap towards the end of the race, and he was just like what you say, one with the car, and it was really special. And I felt so good how everyone came up and congratulated him. Yeah, because people that may have written him off. He said, my fan base supported me through all this, and he has Angela and a whole good team beside him, but that he's been able to navigate a totally different culture than Mercedes or McLaren in just over 1 year.
Right.
It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it's amazing. Really
proud for him.
Yeah, I don't think we thought that he would have a chance to win again. And, there was a lot of DNFs in that race. So it was an unusual race that we don't see as many DNFs that we used to see because of, I guess, this, the way that they build these cars is they check everything 42 times, and and it's a different animal. 300
sensors.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We know that there's a problem. We're working on it. I love it when they start bickering back and forth on the radio about it. So you did. How many years were you a karting instructor and had a karting school? Now you did that for over 3 decades.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting, different families. My dad had grown up racing in the era of the 50s and 60s, extremely dangerous. He had many death-defying accidents where he broke his leg and broke his arm, caught on fire and all that stuff. And I was going to UC Santa Barbara, and I was seeing Al Unser and Michael and all those guys driving karts. And I said, of course, I want to be a race driver. I grew up around it. And
Sure.
He said, well, if you want to be a race driver, you're on your own. If you want to be anything else, I'll help you.
Wow.
So I took my summer earnings, which I think I earned about $3,000 a summer, working 50. You know what a gopher is on a race team, working 50, 60-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And I bought a kart and started racing a kart in college, kept it in my apartment, and in college, and started racing. And it actually came surprisingly easy, having been around, really good people. It was fun and all that stuff.
Right.
And after I graduated, I went to work for a design engineering company, was kind of bored. And that my biggest competitor locally in Southern California in karts had been a marketing guy for Marantz Stereo, was older, lived behind Ventura. And he said, well, let's just start a shop and start selling go-karts. You can build the engines, because I had been around engine building. And we started it, and we said, how can we get customers? So we started giving test drives for $75 test drives. And we realized no one in the world was teaching people how to drive go-karts. So we quickly turned it into a full-time program, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, corporate team building, the Amgens, the Disneys, all that stuff.
Sure.
And it just exploded.
Wow.
And we taught over the 38 years, taught 60,000 people how to drive go-karts.
Wow.
Probably 30% corporate. And Zach Brown was one of the customers, and Patrick Long, and many, many other people.
Sure.
Had the honor. You had Bobby Rahal, I think your last interview, or one of your most recent ones. And at Long Beach one year, Bobby said, I'd like to bring Graham up. Graham was, I think, about 8 or 9 or 10, and just do a private for him, and I'll stay out of it. I won't be a little league dad. So he brought him up. He was in the upper parking lot on the phone all day. And I taught him a private, and at the end of the day, and he said, what do you think? And I said, I think you're in trouble. And I think this just cost you a lot to bring them to me. So it was really special to have this little niche business that was honored so well in the industry.
Yeah,
you and I talked about the NASCAR game coming after Sonoma, Patrick Long started at our track when he was 6 and became a Porsche factory driver, and just so many people. A lot of the celebrities, David Letterman, Paul Newman, loved sending people there, bringing people there, on and on and on.
Well, I loved what Motor Trend magazine said. It was I think the top 49 things to do, car things to do before you die, was one of their things that they put that in. Because people don't realize that there was no virtual racing back then. There was no other. There was the only way that you could even feel the experience of a race car. Generally, you couldn't even see it on TV. You would have to go and actually drive a go-kart or go to even, God forbid, a Malibu Grand Prix, which used to be popular all over the area back then. Right. And there wasn't other opportunities. So to be able to drive a go-kart that was fast like that and low to the ground and the sensation of speed, that must have been exciting. I could see the word of mouth had to be a huge buzz for when a student left there, told all his buddies you had to go.
Oh yeah, it was that classic word of mouth.
Yeah.
We have all the social media now, but that's how our business worked. Is doing a good job, creating a great experience, teaching them whatever we could in a half a day to 3 days, and not everyone is going to be a world champion, but just that they had that experience. Yeah. One of the most sincerely wonderful things for me is some of the guys that spent some time, maybe we had an arrive and drive race series, like Jim Russell or Bob Bondurant, whatever, is a guy took his family to Florida, to Disney and Epcot and all that stuff. And he said he had rented a van, was in his van with a family, and crossing an intersection, someone ran a red light and he swerved left and swerved right and didn't get hit. And he said, it's because of what I learned at your school.
Wow. Wow. That makes it all worthwhile right there.
Right.
It doesn't get much better than that. So, and karting, we talked about, in Europe is, pretty popular still to this day. A lot of the F1 drivers got their start in karting. Karting is an important leadway into motorsports racing. It's a way to tell if you're any good. Could you tell if somebody was good right away? Did you know that somebody had it?
It was interesting. Some people had it, and if they kind of knew the edge from skiing, from surfing, from had really good hand-eye coordination from another sport, maybe had done some motocross or whatever, those people, if they focused and were interested, were instantly really good. But one of the fun things for me is someone that decided this is what they wanted to do and maybe weren't that 10-tenths athlete. Those guys, through perseverance, could become really, really good amateur racers. And, 95% of us are not IndyCar Formula One drivers, NASCAR drivers. So that I said, if you stick with it, you practice, you focus, you do your visual laps, test, learn all the situations. A lot of those guys could get really good. And I say guys, probably only over time, and it was hard to move the needle. There was probably only about 5% women that came out. And of course, a lot of them could be fabulous drivers, but it is a different culture, as we know, and to move the needle was really challenging.
It still is to this day. I mean, it's unfortunate, but there's more women in motorsports than there's ever been, whether it be driving or in the pits or in the back office or wherever. There's lots of female participation, which is great, which is the way it should be, and because it's a different perspective, and a different perspective is good.
It is. One of the neat things for me at the McLaren pits is the pit stop trainer is a woman for their team. And when I was watching her warm up the crew for the pit stops or whatever, she looked very intense. And then I saw her at lunch and walked up to her and said, I hope there's some protein in that salad. And she started laughing, and we had a lovely conversation. I had told her I had a kart racing school, and Zach was part of that many years ago. So she and I had a great conversation, and she is the person that helps them do those 2.5 second consistent pit stops, and then Piastri's and McLaughlin's coach for the mental, emotional part. She was there, and I got to talk to her. So there are some great spots. I'd love to see a woman like a Lynn St. James or Danica or whatever at top levels. But it's neat that they have, engineering and all different stuff that they've incorporated themselves and are super passionate about the sport.
Sure. And, most people, the great thing about being in this sport is that, yes, it's a job, and yes, it's a lot of high pressure, especially if you're in the pit crew, but it's also very rewarding to be so involved in stuff like this. And for you, I mean, to be able to go to, Barcelona and be a guest of the teams and kind of experience in a modern version of what your dad experienced back in the 60s. Pretty amazing. Now, is Rattlesnake Raceway in Midland still there? I know there's a museum there. Is the racetrack still there and usable, or is it no longer?
It is still there. It is not usable right now. Dad has had some interest in making it into a, kind of a country club track.
Sure.
And Dad turns 91 this summer, and his life is full. And as you age, especially if you've had some bad accidents,
sure,
it's been a tough decision for him to do that. He did say, "If I decide I want to do that, would you move to Midland to run that for me?" And I said, "I love Ventura so much. I have the hills, I have the beach, I have friends and family. My wife's family is from here. She was born and raised here.
Right.
And Midlands, is a very different culture and a very different atmosphere and all that. And, of course, that Permian Basin, we could be very proud of producing almost 20% of our domestic oil and gas and stuff. So I wasn't willing to do that.
Right.
At this point in my life, I'm 68. And like I said, I love my life here.
Well,
and so I don't know if that will happen, that the shops and the track are still there. This last weekend, we had the Permian Basin Petroleum Museum, what we call Party on the Patio.
Right.
And I was just getting back from Europe. So my nephew that works at Swift is an engineer at Swift in San Clemente. He went in and we drive one of the 7 cars each June, and he drove the 2J and did some great laps. You could look, on YouTube or online and see him driving that. So he went in, and Dad and Johnny Rutherford came down, and they answered questions after the dinner for about an hour and a half. The two of them. So
how cool is that? And of course, a great new book just not recently. George Levy had
George Levy and Texas Racer. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really well done. He was on the show and he had sent me a copy of it, and just a fascinating career. And the Chaparral Cars were so innovative, so ahead of their time, so amazing, and successful too. It wasn't just like, this was like a little happenstance. This was, 43 wins is not nothing. 72 podiums, right? That's not the Sebring 12-hour in 65, the Nürburgring in 66, 1-2 at Laguna Seca in 66, Brands Hatch in 67, and then the Indy 500 in 1980, with a whole bunch of others thrown in there. Pretty amazing resume.
Yes, and Dad, in retrospect, if you ask him, he was very into developing the cars and making them faster. And during the era of him and Hap Sharp, Hap would have the developed car, Dad would have the test car. Hap would many times win more races, even though Dad's car was faster. And he said, in retrospect, if my goal was to win more races, I would have held off on testing the development car at a race.
Right.
And but I don't think he's anyway dissatisfied that maybe he had more DNFs than he might have had.
Sure.
He was into making them faster, and he was very good at that. And he had a support crew that was really good at that. His relationship with Frank Winchell was important, and all of the different eras. So I did want to, you have that Pennzoil hat sitting right there. I did want to share. I think we both have a story about that.
We do. Absolutely.
In 1980, Johnny Rutherford in the John Bernard designed first ground effects IndyCar was on the pole, and I was standing next to him on the straightaway before the race. And as you know, standing there, you look and 3/4 of a mile of people to the sky. And it's just a proud moment to be there. And I see a ladybug fly and land on his shoulder. And I said, Johnny, look what's on your shoulder. He's all, darn, I'm going to go out and win this race. I just got my good luck charm. And he went out and did it. So it was just really sweet between us. And a couple of years ago, he came to the party in June, and I reminded him of that story, and he just lit up with the biggest smile.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, that was so special.
Yeah, moments like that are pretty amazing. And for both of you to kind of, you probably were thinking the same thing he was thinking when you pointed it out to him, that like, look at that good luck symbol that's happening here. But, and of course, my friend Alan Tate, who was family connected to you guys, was at the Indy 500, and he gave me this hat signed by your dad and signed by Johnny Rutherford, and still got a little grease on it from somebody. I don't know where the grease came from, but it's one of my most prized possessions. My wife rolls her eyes, but it's one of those things that's pretty darn cool.
And in those days, we won the championship that year, and at Mid Ohio, Johnny was super experienced, but not as experienced as Dad as a road racing driver.
Right. And
Dad had a lot of driving at Mid Ohio. Mickey Rupp's, hometown, home place, go-kart racer, car racer. And so Dad and Johnny spent, before Johnny drove the Indy car, spent a bunch of time in the rental car out there driving, both driving each other around.
Right.
And Dad, he ended up doing really well, if not winning that race. Right. And Dad said, he felt like he had something to offer this great professional driver from his experience. So.
Right. And you talked about the DNFs and stuff, but I would imagine a guy like your dad learned as much about the car and racing from DNFs as he did from winning.
Oh yeah. And sometimes you're chasing your tail, the 2F for the World Championship in Europe was super fast, but, kept having failures, and it took him a long time to sort out. I think it was one particular bearing in the transmission and stuff that kept failing to sort it out. So, sometimes it takes a while. And unfortunately, that was 67. And I think if I remember right, in 68, they outlawed the big blocks, went back to smaller engines, and Dad, threw in the cap and moved everything back to America.
Right.
And I think Hap went and became very international at that point. Had decided to stop racing. And so, fortunately, they had to hire Phil Hill to replace Hap. So what a great relationship.
Well, and not only did, Phil Hill, but Jackie Stewart drove for your dad. Roger Penske drove Chaparral Cars for a time. Vic Elford, John Surtees. Pretty amazing.
I have Grand Sport in my hand here.
I love those.
And a really nice Bill Neal photo behind me of the Grand Sport.
Absolutely.
And I think Dad, I don't know if I could verify that, but I think Roger borrowed the Grand Sport for a race that he wanted to do, and quote, never returned it. And when the first one sold for $1 million, Dad went up to Roger and said, I think you owe me $1 million. And then when the first one went for $5 million, he went up to him and said, I think you owe me $5 million and stuff. So it was one of their jokes. And those cars in that era were passed around.
Sure.
And his brother had done really well, Ellis Hall, in the oil business, and helped Dad get started. The Ferrari Monza that won Pebble with both Carroll and Phil, Dad won his first race in, and a number of years ago he sold that at R.M. Sotheby's auction in Monterey.
Right.
And then the people that bought it restored it and started running it worldwide, at Monaco, at Goodwood. And so it was out there being seen and out there being driven. And I'm friends with that family from the Bay Area. And just really cool how old race cars like the one behind you,
the Cobra,
are so special.
And I would imagine it's surprising to your dad the value of these things nowadays. They were just old race cars.
It's shocking to him. It's shocking to him. And, he, Shelby and Dad were kind of partners with DeCall and Dallas after Dad graduated from Caltech, and talking about go-karts around the building that they had. They would evenings pull all the cars out and race the go-karts around the building and just have a blast. Right. And it was probably pretty dangerous, but they survived it.
Well, it's amazing to see that, Chaparral cars. I mean, how many are left? Do we know a number of how many of the Chaparral? Are all of them still somewhere?
So other than the Chaparral one that were built by Troutzman and Barnes,
right?
All the rest, all the Chaparral 2s are all in the possession of the Petroleum Museum. It's called the Chaparral Gallery.
Right. And
there's 7 of them there. And there's even the GS2B, the Frank Winchell clone.
Right.
It's a single speed. That car's there too. That was a test bed car, aluminum chassis instead of a monocoque that was made to parallel programs with Chaparral, with Chevrolet. Of course, in the winters, they couldn't use Black Lake. So, Frank would send some of his young hotshot engineers like Mike Pocobello or some of those engineers down to do winter testing at Rattlesnake.
Right.
And so it was really, really cool.
And I guess the most radical one is the 2H. Is that the one that looked like a streamliner? Which one was the one that
it was? So it was a unibody car, and Dad was still recovering from his end of the season 1968 Las Vegas accident where broke both legs and caught on fire. At the last race of the season. So he was not able to test that car. And when you ask him now, he thinks he made it a little narrow. He said, if I was, more mobile, I would have cut it in half and widened it 3 to 6 inches. He hired John Surtees to drive it. John wasn't comfortable in it, and Dad wasn't able to really help him develop it. And it was hard for him. He bought a McLaren for John Surtees to race the rest of that season. So
nice.
So,
I love that.
Of course, the 2J was kind of a test bed, but there was rumors that Teddy Mayer was going to get it outlawed with the rest of the Can-Am crew. So GM and Dad said, well, we should, even though it's not developed, we should throw it out there.
Sure.
It was very fast and a test bed. But of course was outlawed. So
right. I love the target for the 2H was a slippery piece of soap on wheels. That's a great. I love that.
It was a very unique, different car, and Dad's mind was always going. Even after he stopped racing and started playing a lot of golf, he started designing his own putters and would drill them out and put lead in the ends of the putting part, to try to balance it better. And his mind's always going. Even in the last 10 years, he and Sandy still run their gas and oil production company. And Dad would be sometimes up in the middle of the night, in his late 80s, writing notes for an arbitration or something, just like that mind. It's hard for him to stop.
Yeah, there needs to be a movie. I think a movie would be great. Ford versus Ferrari was a great movie. I think the Chaparral story would be an amazing movie as well.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. So, so wonderful to have you on. My last question I'd like to ask everybody that's on the show is, what is your daily driver?
My daily driver. I drive. And this comes back to slot cars.
Right.
I drive a Porsche Taycan 4S.
Nice.
Electric
Taycan.
Porsche.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of a slot car.
Yeah. It's point
fast,
and go.
It's smooth. It handles well. And we have solar, so I just plug it in and it runs off the sun. My not daily driver is a 991.1 GT3.
Right.
And I run it on a glorified street tire, and I drive it to all the tracks within 8 hours of here.
Wow.
So that's about 9 tracks. It's done 85 track days.
Wow. That's a pretty impressive resume for that car.
Willow is 1 hour 40, Button Willow is 2 hours. And then Laguna's 4 hours, and Sonoma 7 hours.
Yeah, Laguna.
So we have lots of tracks, and so it's been a really fun car for me. I've always had a Formula Mazda since the late 80s. I keep one at Buttonwillow. I'm 68 and still love driving the 2-rotor Formula Mazda.
That's awesome.
It's fast and nimble, kind of like a Formula 3 car.
Sure.
So I listened to Bobby's cars that he's had and let go, and was a little bit jealous. But and my wife drives the Panamera hybrid. We love Porsches.
Yeah,
my shirt, I think you can see, has a Porsche on it.
Yeah. I didn't notice what that was.
We love Porsches. I've had the GT4s, the Caymans, all that. My parents were divorced when I was young, so I spent winters in Marin County, summers in Texas or on the road.
Right.
And my stepdad was a captain for American Airlines, was San Francisco sailing bay champion twice.
Wow.
Was a super sailor, and he had a 7911S.
Ooh.
And he would take the American Airlines bus to the airport and said, "You can drive it, but if you ever even put a scratch on it, you're done." So I, as a young teen, would be out driving a dark green with a dark tan interior 911S. And it was 2,200 pounds.
Oh, man.
It sounded good. It was light. It was nimble. And it made a huge impression on me. So when I came into the place that I wasn't spending every cent on going racing and had kept some in the bank, I bought a Cayman and then a GT4 and then a GT3.
So you'd like to have that 911S today, huh?
I would love to have it, and I think he sold it for about $10,000.
Of course, those stories there's so many of those stories of selling a Ferrari or a Porsche or any of those cars at a price that sounded like a lot of money at the time, but of course, hindsight is 20/20, right?
So even though my dad was a big Chevy guy,
sure.
He was involved in the Chevy dealership in Midland, and he usually had one of their Corvettes or something. I just, fell in love with that, that 911. So just the pure simplicity. And then, David Letterman had a number of those, Seinfeld, those guys. So it was fun that they were both passionate about those cars too.
And passionate they are.
The Porsche is a culture, and Patrick Long, has remained a good friend, does the Luft events, the air and water and air events, and spectacular. The culture, that car culture.
Sure, it's amazing. It's fun to watch, and it's fun to be a part of, and fun to talk about. And we could talk about it all day long, I would imagine, and it hopefully wouldn't get old, maybe to everybody but us. But Jim, thanks so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate it, and glad we could spend some time and talk old cars and tell stories about your dad and all that cool stuff.
Do we have 2 seconds?
Absolutely. I'm the boss. We can do whatever we want.
That Dad, trusted me to be a mechanic on the race team, trusted me to run the Pennzoil Indy Car Team. One time he was being honored at Peterson, and in front of 300 people, he said, my son is just up an hour away up in Ventura and does a great job running a kart school up there. And if any of you ever want to learn the basics of racing, you should go up and see him. So I really have felt honored by my father, just trusting me to be in doing a good job, trying my best. And, just yesterday he asked me, "Hey, can you do this for me?" And I got it done in 30 minutes. So he knows that I love short-term projects, and I just feel honored by him, and honored that I've had the privilege to, grow up around some of the very best. And,
Yeah, he's up there definitely.
I know my life has been very special.
Yeah,
so.
he's definitely up there on the list of most influential in the racing world in the history of racing. There's no question about it, and that will never change. And what an honor to be able to just the absorption rate of things that you absorb from him talking or sitting around the dinner table had to be off the charts, and to learn all that and to know all that and to be able to live vicariously through him sometimes as well.
Right. Going to the races as a kid. And, Franz Weiss was our engine builder, test driver, ended up doing VDS engines and just fabulous to grow up around him too.
Absolutely.
And he would let me, take heads off and help him with engines. He was a one-man engine shop.
Sure.
All the engines.
Amazing guy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I feel really fortunate. I feel really lucky that I've raced. Dad stopped racing, of course, after a couple of races in Trans Am in 1970. Right. I think he was 35. I'm 68 and still track drive. I feel really lucky. I just do time trials now. No actual competition. I just made that decision. And I feel really fortunate at 68, still enjoying the passion.
Absolutely,
and play.
Absolutely. It gives, we all think that 60s are old, but it's really not. It's all it's all up here. You just got to get past that part.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me on. Thank you for what you guys do, and it's neat that you need more cars right now.
Absolutely. So. If you know anybody, send them our way. So, Jim Hall II, everybody. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
We'll be back with the Classic Auto Mall show in just a couple of minutes. We'll see you then.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall show, Classic Auto Mall Studios, Morgantown, PA.
Good guess.
Good guess. Man, some stories. God, there were so many more, too. It's that's the problem with a 30-minute-ish show is that there's always more. There's just so much more. But it's like looking at these shows that are 3 hours. You watch for an hour and a half and you're worn out and you go, oh my God, there's still an hour and a half to go. Yeah. Not that it's not interesting or any of that.
No, especially with somebody like this whose career has covered so many different things.
Yeah. And the what he gleaned at the dinner table from his dad, which we were talking about, is just amazing. So thanks so much to Jim Hall II for being on the show, and thanks to his dad for everything he's done for motorsports and vehicles in general, aerodynamics particularly. Some of the new arrivals this week are, how about the 1968 Dodge Coronet RT hardtop?
Ooh, I love the RT.
Medium blue metallic over white and black. Long-term ownership in this date-correct 440 cubic inch V8.
That's in the center hall here, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I've seen it. It's beautiful.
Date-correct A727 3-speed automatic. Stunning presentation on this car. And then another Mopar product, another new arrival, is the 1973 Dodge Challenger hardtop. Hemi orange over black. 383 cubic inch 4-barrel V8, desirable E-body. This is a fun driving car, and it was redone in 2018 or so there, and very nicely done. Good driver quality. You got to know what you want in this world, and you want something you can drive. You can't make it perfect. You can't go out and spend, the kind of money that a frame-off, perfect Concours quality restoration and paint job and all of that if your goal is to drive it every day.
Exactly.
Now, if you're going to show it and take it in a trailer and baby it the whole time, then that's a different animal. Then we're talking about doing a Concours-ready restoration. But if you want something to drive, don't go spend $25,000 on a paint job. Don't buy the best of the best. Buy one that's usable, that's cool, that you like, that'll be fun. And if you get a scratch, okay, no big deal.
You can take it to a Cars and Coffee, but then you want to stop at a Wawa for a cup of coffee.
Exactly. So other new arrivals, the 1968 Oldsmobile 442 two-door Holiday Coupe, scarlet red over garnet, numbers matching 400 cubic inch, 325 horsepower V8. It's got the correct Muncie M21 4-speed manual with a 12-bolt rear axle. This is an interesting car. It's a Survivor and a solid 442. There's a lot of options of what you could do with this car. You could restore it. You could just drive it and enjoy it. And if you bumped into a shopping cart at the local Wawa or Walmart or whatever then you're okay with it. So other new arrival, the 1969 Chevrolet Corvette convertible, Monaco orange over black, 99,289 miles. Boy, you're just pain that day it goes to 100. I had that happen on my Hurst Olds. It was when I bought it, it was at 99,996. And we're driving along and it rolled over to all zeros. And, it was just like, it doesn't really mean anything, but it's a funny thing and a thing that, it's a milestone regardless. Yeah. So kind of cool.
Over 100.
Yeah. Numbers matching 427 L36, 390 horsepower V8, turbo hydromatic, 3-speed automatic transmission. And it's 3 cars in one. It's a hard top, it's a soft top, or it's a convertible. So how cool is that? And next on the list is the longest name of any car that we've ever had, the 1999 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am 30th anniversary convertible pace car replica.
Wow.
That's a mouthful.
Count the letters?
No, don't even bother. White over white and black, 19,139 actual miles on 535 of these were built. They're really cool. They have the cool blue wheels. They're very striking. They're probably one of the prettier later model Trans Ams that you'll ever find. And it's got the 5.7 liter 325 horse LS1 V8, which was a lot of engine back then. Yeah. It was pretty fast and spry for the day. And it's got a 4-speed automatic transmission as well. And last but not least, the 1968 Ford Mustang convertible, candy ruby red over black. Remember candy apple red? That was always the color that sounded so exotic.
Yeah.
Candy apple red.
One of the hottest candy apples is the Mazda color.
Yeah, that's a great color. So 54,000 miles, actual miles on this Ford Mustang convertible with the 289 cubic inch V8 4-barrel. That's a C4 3-speed automatic, which is cool. You can drive it and enjoy it and not have to worry about the clutch and shifting gears and all that stuff if you're into that kind of thing. 4-wheel disc brakes and Corbeau seats, which were really cool back in the day. They were kind of a less expensive version than the Recaro seats were the high-dollar ones. Right. They were like $400 a piece or something. Maybe weren't that much, but they were expensive. The Corbeaus were maybe $189 or something, and they were cool. But they had very tall side bolsters, so when you got in, you were in. There was no shifting around. You didn't slide out of the other passenger side of the bench seat car. You were just gripped in that thing. So really a neat car and make a perfect candidate for a daily driver.
And do we have a list of where the ones found new homes?
Well, we might have that list as well too. Funny you should ask that. I know we're a little over time, but sure.
That's
all right. How about Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? How about Santa Ana, California? Statesville, North Carolina? Moffett, Colorado? Sunflower, Mississippi? East Aurora, New York, Doral, Florida, Temple, Pennsylvania, Chantilly, Virginia, Paoli, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, Maryland, Coatesville, Pennsylvania, Sheridan, Wyoming, Mishawaka, Indiana, San Diego, California, Irvine, California, and Paoli, Pennsylvania.
Bye-bye.
So that's
cars.
where we said bye-bye to all of our cars.
East Aurora, New York, the home of the Hallmark movie A Buffalo Bill's Christmas.
Good to know. I'll write that down on my calendar. When we return, we'll be joined by our friend, Mr. Keith Martin, publisher of Sports Car Market Magazine. We'll see you in just a couple minutes.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back. I'm a little slow today. Don't mind me.
It's all right.
I've had a busy day.
And I did it with the left hand. I
see, it threw me completely off. No. So joining us, welcome back to the show. Joining us via Zoom, Mr. Keith Martin, publisher, Sports Car Market Magazine. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Stewart. Happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you. It's always fun to talk cars with you, and we've missed a couple of weeks, so we're glad to have you back. We can take that Pennzoil hat away. That was an interesting hat that I had signed. It's too long of a story. I'll tell you later. Let's talk about what's going on in your world. How about 2 swings and no hits on the Austin Healey? What's going on?
Well, here's the backstory.
Okay.
The big Healey, we call them Bug-Eye Sprites or 3000s, really, are the big Healey's. The Healey convention next year at Lake Tahoe is going to be the 75th annual convention.
Right.
They expect over 500 Healeys.
Not nothing.
That's a tour. That's a 2-day drive for me from Portland down to Tahoe. I went to the 50th anniversary,
right.
And I have to tell you that being in a line of 6 or 8 big Heelys with those twin exhausts at 7 in the morning, top down, head out on back roads is just something I'll never forget.
Yeah, a little chilly will add to the mystique of it, right?
That's why you have Amazon for down jackets.
Exactly. I love those.
My son has said that if we buy a big Heely, he'll drive to the convention with me.
I love that. I think that's, as we've talked about many times, that's important. That bonding, that time together, and the cars actually do it for us, right?
Right. So I've been looking for a big Heely, and now I don't want to get too obtuse here, but they kind of come in 2 flavors, BJ7s and BJ8s.
Right.
And the BJ7s come in plastic side window or wind-up window versions.
Right. Which is your preference?
Pardon me?
What's your preference?
I prefer slide. I've had mine as a slide window before, and as long as you keep a few towels in the car, you're fine.
Judge Lake does it. It's hermetically sealed, I thought.
No, well, it's a humidifier.
Yeah, lovely.
The wind-up window cars are $5 to $10 grand less than. I mean, the sliding window cars are $5 to $10 grand less.
Wow.
The performance is about the same.
Right.
If you spend another 10 to 15, you get the BJ8 with the wooden dash.
Right.
And to me, that's always kind of seemed like a poser car because you're trying to pretend that it's a Jaguar instead of a Heely.
Right. That's so
in my
true.
mind.
It's complete logic to me. I get it. I understand what you're saying 100%.
So we're in the low 30s. We're watching these 3 cars. We find one in Texas and one in Monterey. My son really wants me to buy a car that he can drive home.
Right. I like it. He wants to go wherever it can be. So you don't want to be East Coast. You don't want to be Florida. You don't want
I showed him a map of the world that started in Frisco, Texas, and ended in Portland, Oregon. I said, these cars run hot to begin with.
Yeah.
It's 2,000 miles across Texas.
I'm telling you, even the most seasoned rally and car and driver and all of that, that's a long way to go. That's not nothing to go 2,000 miles in a Heely.
So we settle on the car in Monterey. We have it inspected. I talked to the mechanic who's worked on it for 20 years. I said, is it feasible for my 19-year-old son, who's not a mechanic with no tools and no spares, to drive this car from Monterey to Portland, Oregon? And he said, are you nuts?
Yeah. I mean, the answer was quite obvious. The more you said it, the more you realized that the answer was just completely going to be exactly what you thought it was going to be.
I could predict the phone call. Dad, I'm by the side of the road at Eureka, and it's not running.
Yeah. And you know what? The problem is with a car like that is that it's one thing to drive something that there's some readily available parts at the local Napa or AutoZone or Pep Boys or O'Reilly's. The problem is that a lot of those parts aren't going to be there for an Austin Healey or anything from that era and type of car. So it becomes a logistical thing. Even if you were good at fixing stuff, you may not have the ability to get the part that you need to fix.
Well, the other side of that coin is if you've been around these cars a lot, usually it's something really simple, like recapping the points, but if you haven't been around them, you don't know where to start.
Well, it's like the guy who opens up the hood. I love that when a friend of mine on something, their car will break down, they open up the hood. I go, what are you looking for? They go, I don't know. I thought you were supposed to open the hood.
Stewart, when I bought my Hyundai Elantra the first time, I was taking delivery of the car, and I said to the dealer, well, how do you open the hood? And he said, why would you want to do that?
How true is that? I mean, what's the point of opening it? What are you looking at? You go,
okay, so here we go. We're bidding on the car. We're zeroed in.
You've got it.
We're in the 34 is my limit.
Right.
So we're in the low third. And suddenly this guy comes up called Car Buyer 01. He's hitting me at $1,000 increments.
Oh.
18, 19, 20, 21, 20.
Knockout blow.
At 34, I stop. He buys the car. It turns out he's bought 60 cars in the past 2 weeks. He's a French dealer who comes here and buys cars off of Bring a Trailer.
Wow. How interesting. Probably ships them all over to France and makes a tidy profit.
He's buying BJ7. He's buying Excaliburs.
Wow.
He's buying, he knows his home market. And so he's got it all dialed in terms of what he can pay, what the shipping will be, what the rehab will be, and where he can come up. But what that does, first of all, it's good for the seller because we got him another $4,000 or $5,000 by our.
Absolutely.
But what it means for me is I've got another layer of competitor out there.
Well, Can you retail buy one of these? I mean, surely to God, somebody's got one on their lot right now that wants X amount of dollars for it. Do they want more money than that on the retail side of it, or is it just hard to find one?
I'm sure they take them to France and make a profit.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about for you to buy one off a retail lot in the U.S. And, is there one out there that you can buy? You don't have to go through the bring a trailer thing, or you just like that part of the aspect of it?
You know what? Because I'm not really an expert on those cars, I like the trolls and how they take it. I mean, this one car I was looking at in Texas, in Frisco, the guy said, not a bad car except for the wrong frame.
Wow, that gives you some confidence about the car, right? What has it got, a Mustang 2 frame?
It's got a BJ8 half front frame and a BJ7 back frame. Now, does it make any difference? Probably not.
But you know what? You'll never get that out of your head. It'll always be right here if you were to buy that car. And when you sell it, the guy'd say, I'd give you more money, but the whole frame thing, it's like a bad Carfax, you just can't can't outlive it.
Stuart, I had a BJ7, the one I drove to the 50th convention. I'm standing in line to get my free hot dog at the convention. And the guy turns up to me and goes, I can't believe you bought Susan's car. I said, why? He goes, with that kink in the frame and everything? And he said, you want me to show you? I said, no.
No, please, never show me. Never speak of this again.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
I'll never forget that moment. And so I got home, put it on a frame shop, got it. I mean, I sold it. I sold it with a frame repaired thing, but it took all the sizzle out of, because now the car has a story.
And once you knew it, you couldn't unknow it. You have to fix it. You're like me. You couldn't ever sell that car with good conscience to knowing that information and keeping it back. Because most people would never know it unless somebody in a line getting a hot dog happens to tell you. What are the odds of that?
In my position with the magazine, Stuart, I disclose everything.
Yeah, it's the way to do it. It's the only way to do it. We've talked about that numerous times. Disclose everything that you know about the car. If it kills the sale, then so be it. At least you didn't sell something to somebody that they didn't expect what it was or what it wasn't.
Your reputation extends way beyond the sale.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And I think it's unfortunate that people either don't know any better or do know better, and they're just trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. And not knowing is not a good enough excuse. Shame on you. If you're going to buy these cars, you need to know as much as you possibly can about them. You need to have them thoroughly gone through, because you're putting your life on the line when you're out there driving it. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to make sure?
I want to give the founder of Bring a Trailer, Randy Nonenberg, a real thumbs up here, because with his local BAT partners, what he's done is he's created an inspection intermediary. Yeah. Because the assumption is when it goes to a BAT, like when my car sold through 911R, who's my local BAT partner,
right?
I've spent $6,000 to $7,000 on each car on rehab and recon,
right?
Because he's not going to sell you a car that needs something.
Yeah, and he won't sell your car if it has needs like that. He knows it. He's going to have you fix it, or he's going to tell you to come get your car.
Well, I'm looking at a BJ8 right now that's in the Bay Area, and the car is a beautiful car, but it says, by the way, has 4 bent wire wheels.
Well, at least it's...
Don't mind that shimmy.
Yeah, at least it's not the spare. So, yeah, you got that.
I like the seller very much, but I question why he just didn't spend the $2,000 or $3,000, put the new wires on it, and then you're done with that.
Yeah, you're done.
Because now I'm looking at this car and I'm thinking, okay, so it's 32. Is that another $2,500 for the wires?
Yeah.
And the tachometer doesn't work. Well, fix the damn tachometer.
It's funny that people will say, oh, I didn't want to fix that. And then you think, well, if they didn't fix that, what else didn't they fix? What else is not fixed? And that's the problem with it. And people want to discount the price of the car. Like if you say that the right wiper's not working, the guy goes, well, I need $2,000 off. For a wiper? And I get that you need something off because it doesn't work, but I don't think $2,000 is right in the ballpark.
But it also means that you should have just had it fixed.
Well, that's true, too. Unfortunately for us, we have a lot of people who sell through us who don't have the wherewithal to fix it because it's an estate. And they don't have all the money's tied up, and they don't have this, and they don't have that. And so they have to sell it like it is. Now, the good news is that we put it out there and we say, hey, the right wiper doesn't work. Hey, the rear end's got a knock. Hey, whatever it happens to be. Hey, all four, So there's different scenarios that change the dynamics of it, right?
But the more I the big difference between Bring a Trailer and all the other sites is the trolls.
Yeah.
It looks to me like Haggerty has taken the trolls off of their sites.
Yeah, I guess that's no longer. So I haven't really paid much attention to it lately, but apparently that's the case. And
no more, which is okay because they weren't getting any comments anyway.
Right. Nobody was commenting, and then people were just buying, and so or not buying, or whatever the case may be. And then, of course, you got eBay, who, everybody that buys a car doesn't buy it because their dog, their cat, their kid, their whatever hit to buy it now, or
Do you remember way back when eBay first started, eBay Motors, that they used to have comments back and forth? You could rate the buyer and rate the seller.
Yeah. And now you can the buyer can rate the seller, but the seller can only give neutral feedback, can't give negative feedback. And so, which is odd. I don't quite understand that. I think it's a shame with eBay Motors. They could have an opportunity. They still have a huge clientele and a huge client base.
Most profitable part of eBay.
Yeah. I think that they could build a better mousetrap than what they're doing. And I've talked to them about this to get back to being where every sale doesn't feel like it's a guy who's just going to say, I didn't bid on that. And that's about 90% of the time on there now.
Simon Rothman was one of the founders of eBay Motors, and he was meeting with Randy Nonenberg about Bring a Trailer. And his advice to Randy was, take everything, don't discriminate.
Right, yeah.
Don't curate at all, because that's eBay's approach is we'll take
anything, everything. But
you're in a Dean Cruz buyer beware auction situation.
That's not the truth. So, well, I think that we wish you all the luck in the world for finding the BJ8 or BJ7 of your dreams.
And if any of your guys out there come across something that's a decent car, I'll spiff you with a free copy of the Monterey supplement.
Nice. Love the car on the cover, by the way. That's not too shabby.
I bought that last week.
Well, then what are you bitching about for the BJ8? Just go ahead and spend 50 or 60 or whatever it's going to take to get it.
The cost of that car was the same as the gloves on my BJ8. So it's great talking to you, Stewart. I'm looking for a Healy. I'm going to find one. It's interesting having foreign buyers out there.
Yeah.
Think about it, and I'll make this brief. When I used to sell a lot of cars overseas, I had car finders, guys who were out looking for me, trying to find them and all that. With Bring a Trailer does the car finding.
Yeah. You don't have to send a guy anywhere. So it's there.
The car that I ended up selling out of Monterey was a solid car. We had researched it. All the guy had to do was look at my research, look at the trolls, and decide it was a good car and just buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way you really want it to be, ultimately. So, Keith Martin, everybody, thanks so much, Keith. We'll see you next week, and we'll catch you next week on the Classic Auto Mall Show. We'll see you then.
Here's a special offer from Sports Car Market Magazine. Get a 6-month subscription for just $19.95 by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive and the number 6. That's sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. If you're a buyer, a seller, or just general classic car enthusiast, publisher Keith Martin says,
we've been around almost 40 years. It's the Wall Street Journal of the collector car world.
Activate your 6-month trial of Sports Car Market Magazine by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. Offers for a limited time. Be in the know with Sports Car Market. The Classic Auto Mall Show with their host, Stewart Howden, executive producer, Steve Seth here, produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ, video editor, Randy Lammy. Available on classicautomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band. For tour dates, contact, and stuff, visit pattravers.com. Produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.